Get ready to get uncorked. It's a new kind of show. Starring me, Cindy Ashton. With special guest, Dr. Erin Findley. Live from the streets of Laguna Beach. This is Cindy Uncorked.
We're going a little more sassy. Dr. Erin Findley is on the show, talking about open relationships, swinging on polyamory, the good, bad, and the ugly. What is the difference? But first, you might have noticed I have a fantastic guest behind me. Behind me, we've got a world-renowned musical director, Rick Fox. He has been musical directing on Broadway national tours for decades and decades. We are so blessed to have him. Hi, Rick.
Hello.
Also on the show today, super excited, Janet Wise is going to talk about if you're feeling stuck in your career, how do you catapult it? And of course, we've got our celebs on the red carpet. But first, we've got Dr. Nathalie Beauchamp, and she's going to get uncorked about what it really takes to not gain weight after having menopause. All right, everybody, another show is here. Let's get uncorked.
Wellness Uncorked is brought to you by Dr. Nathalie Beauchamp. How to avoid weight gain during menopause? Find out now.
I was in the change room at the gym the other day and overheard two women in their 50s complaining about how much their bodies had changed since starting menopause. They were talking about the typical menopause symptoms like hot flashes, insomnia, fatigue, and loss of sex drive. But what they both seemed to be the most upset about was the weight they had gained. One of them was even saying that no matter what she did, even if she watched what she ate and exercised like crazy, she just could not lose the weight. Now, for many people, keeping weight off is a lifelong battle. And as soon as we think we have it down, bam, menopause shows up. But just because weight gain during menopause is common, it doesn't mean it has to happen. See, our hormones and our fat cells are part of this complex network responsible for metabolism, appetite, digestion, heat regulation, and detoxification. Any breakdown in communication of this network can result in weight gain. So what can you do to avoid weight gain during menopause? Try to keep your sugar low. Excess amount of sugar can result in insulin resistance and cause rapid weight gain. Skip anything made with refined flour and added sugars like cane sugar or high fructose corn syrup. Second, try to keep your stress to a minimum. The hormone cortisol is secreted when the body is stressed, and too much of this hormone can help raise your blood glucose levels and block weight loss. Third, get your sleep. Less than optimal sleep for a few nights in a row lead to weight gain and insulin resistance. Studies show that just one sleepless night can increase blood sugar levels and impair your sensitivity to insulin. Lastly, reduce exposure to toxins. These can be found in your food, in your cosmetic, in your personal hygiene product. So make sure you buy organic food when you can and look for the EcoCert logo on your beauty products. Toxin can cause inflammation of the cells, block proper hormone function, and impair fat loss. Now you're probably thinking, cut the sugar. Easier said than done. Here's a great tip to help you kick your sugar craving to the curb. Increase your fat intake. When you increase the amount of good fats in your diet, your body will feel fuller and you won't be craving sweets as much. There you have it. Simple things you can do to balance your blood sugar and your hormones so you can feel great and keep the weight off during menopause. All right, ladies, right now, I want you to tweet me and tell me what is your favorite source of healthy fats to help you curb your sugar cravings.
Be sure to get Dr. Beauchamp's free gift, a complete health and lifestyle self-evaluation, and the ebook, Toxin Overload. Discover how toxins may be disrupting your hormones and preventing you from reaching a healthy weight. Go to wellnessuncorked.com. Now it's time for Live from the Streets. Well, Laguna Beach.
So what's the difference between open relationships, swinging, and polyamory?
Oh, bye. Okay, so an open relationship is when 2 people agree, or 3 people or 4 people agree that they can date other people.
You answer.
No, come on!
No, you answer.
Open relationships. I guess that's just kind of if you want to do your own thing and I want to do my own thing.
Polyamory is when you don't believe that monogamy is the only model for intimate relationship and you can have more than one lover.
Oh, I'm sorry. I can't discuss that without a raincoat. I'm not sure that that's a subject that I really can get.
Can you repeat the question? I'm sorry. I didn't even process what you just said.
Swingers are usually people in general that have been married for a long time. They want to spice things up. They want to add variety. They go out and basically cheat together rather than the American model, which is pretend you're married to someone and you're in love with them, but go out and cheat, which 75% of all American married couples admit to doing.
And then swinging is kind of like couples who swing outside of the marriage or have sex outside of the marriage, sometimes with other couples or sometimes with other people, individual or separate.
Relationship.
Wow.
Okay.
Go
An
ahead.
open relationship basically means you don't, I'm assuming you don't have any complete obligations towards the person and you are both kind of aware that you have the ability to see other people, where what's the other word? Polyamory. I think that is where it's literally more than 2 people in a relationship. Yeah. So
Wow,
it's like
I'm so
a woman and
impressed.
2 men or 2 women and 1 man together.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right, everybody, today we're getting a little saucy. So we know there's all the meet your man, meet your woman, get married. It's all monogamous and beautiful. But you know, there's a lot of people out there that have an alternative lifestyle and we've got to talk about it. So today we have Dr. Erin Findley in the house and she is an amazing psychotherapist. And we're going to be talking about open relationships, swinging, and polyamory. And what the heck is it and what's the good, bad, and the ugly around it? Hello, Dr. Findley.
Hi, Cindy. How are you?
I love her getting saucy. I'm great.
I know,
How are
right?
you?
It's perfect.
It's perfect. So my first question is, before we actually go into this, I know that some of the viewers watching are already highly offended by this
Yeah,
and having
that
all
happens.
kinds of judgment around it. So can we just get rid of this right off the bat? Let's get rid of the elephant in the room.
Okay, so here's the deal. When we're confronted by things that we don't understand,
Right.
or we don't like, we experience them as a threat. When we experience them as a threat, our amygdala gets triggered and our adrenaline starts to rush. And what happens is we go into a fight, flight, or freeze kind of a state. And what that does is it shuts down our ability to connect with people. It shuts down our ability to be open to each other and to be open to new ideas. Because, by the way, this part of the brain, the part that actually can be logical and rational,
Right.
is disconnected.
Hello.
Right.
Right.
So I brought some visual aids and some M&Ms to really demonstrate the point.
Okay, good.
So take an M&M
Okay.
and just eat it.
I'm already on it.
I know, right? What do you notice about the texture?
Well, it's crunchy on the outside,
Right?
and it's smooth on the inside.
Right. Now imagine if your mouth had been just recently burned, like say you had a drink of coffee.
Oh, yeah.
How pleasant would that crunchiness be?
Not be so pleasant.
Right, exactly. And you wouldn't probably want to eat an M&M like that.
No.
Okay, so here's the thing. When we're in that fight or flight stressed state, we tend to use our reactive emotions as armor,
Right.
like the candy coating on the M&M. Okay.
Okay.
And so what happens is the core emotions and our emotional accessibility is inside, like the chocolate, but it's protected.
Right.
Okay. Now imagine if you were to take an M&M, you're welcome to do it if you
Okay.
like.
I'm going to do orange today.
Okay. And I want you to suck on it. Okay. I want you to take some time, enjoy the experience. And when you feel the chocolate coming through, I want you to notice the texture of that.
It's soft.
And let's face it, you get all the chocolate yumminess, right?
Yeah, I do. It's so creamy.
So what happens when you allow that chocolate to really stay in your mouth
And savor it
and
down.
savor it is your emotional experience becomes more open. And it becomes one when you're communicating of more receptivity and more welcomingness to the other person.
Right.
Instead of the armor. Right?
So for today, we're going to ask our viewers who are feeling that crunchy judgment and, I don't know what this is all about coming up, to take a breath.
Yep. Feel free to suck an M&M if you like.
Yeah, or something else, whatever you feel like.
Well, right, it is Valentine's Day.
and we are talking about open relationships and swinging and polyamory.
Sex.
Ah.
Good times.
Yeah, okay. So just be open and play and be willing to see what shows up.
And curious.
And curious.
Right? Because by the way, if this doesn't fit for you, don't do it.
So what is the difference between open relationships, swinging, and polyamory? Because they all feel like the same thing to me.
Open relationship is an umbrella term for any relationship that's consensually non-monogamous.
Right.
So that means that the people involved have agreed to some sort of arrangement within themselves that includes more than two people in a partnership being sexually and emotionally intimate with each other and choosing to be that way with no one else.
Right.
Okay? Swinging often happens in the context of a couple, and that includes a couple opening up the relationship sexually to enhance the intimacy of the primary partnership.
Interesting.
Okay? So, of course, sex is involved, but the goal is always to add intimacy to the primary partnership. In polyamory, it literally translates into poly, many,
Right.
loves,
Right.
amory. So in polyamory, people may have multiple partners, and those partners are not always the same, like within the group.
Right.
And the goal is to have many people in many intimate, loving relationships. So they're not limiting themselves to one person.
Cool.
Right.
That sounds like fun to me.
Well, it can be great fun, but it's also a little tricky to manage.
How the heck does all this work? Because it sounds like a lot to manage.
Well, it is. It is a lot to manage. The way that it works is through specific, detailed consent. Okay.
Interesting.
Consent is so important, and consent is not just, well, she didn't say no, or he didn't specifically say we were, committed to each other. You actually have to have the conversation. You have to set up ground rules for what feels good, what doesn't feel good. How are you going to negotiate if you're having multiple partners, spending time with one versus spending time with the other? How are you going to figure out, how to manage jealousy if it comes up, because jealousy does come up.
Right.
The opposite of jealousy, by the way, in the poly community is compersion, which is
compersion.
the celebration and enjoyment of your partner enjoying another love partner.
Cool.
Right? Opposite of jealousy. So the goal here is to really talk in thorough detail with your partner or partners and identify within the dyad that you're looking at, that's two people, within that dyad, what are the rules about what's okay and what's not?
Yeah.
And then stick to it.
Exactly.
Right? Because if you're not sticking to it, that's how cheating happens. And that, by the way, in monogamy, that's how cheating happens too, right? The agreement is two people in a relationship, physically and emotionally intimate with each other and no one else.
Right.
Right? Cheating is doing anything other than that.
Right.
Same thing with people who swing, people who are in open relationships, people who have poly relationships. If they have an agreement and someone violates that agreement, that's still cheating.
Right.
So cheating can still happen.
So here's what's really interesting that I actually want to add into this. So I've always been a monogamous person.
Right.
And a few years ago, I had a coach said, I really want you to try doing the open relationship thing. And I said, are you out of your mind? I only want to be with one man and da-da-da. And she said, I just want you to try it because you're going to learn a lot about who you are.
Yes.
And I can tell you the whole consent thing is fascinating because when we are in a monogamous dating or a marriage, a relationship, what ends up happening is we're actually not talking through all the details that you are.
There's a lot of assumptions.
There's a lot of
Tons of
assumptions. Now, it was interesting because when I was in an open relationship, what I discovered is that I actually had more commitment from the man that I was with at the time than I had in my monogamy relationships that were mostly cheaters.
Right.
Because we were very clear of how is this going to work, you know, and it was all driven from our feelings and as opposed to expectations.
Absolutely.
Whereas when I was in a monogamous relationship, I'm like, oh, I don't feel like texting him today, but I guess I have to, you know, and I felt like I had all these rules in my head. Whereas when I was in an open relationship, it was the healthiest relationship I had ever had. Now, I still want to be with my one and get married and do that kind of thing because I'm really, it's more me. But I was really happy to have had that experience because it really taught me about the level of communication that a healthy relationship should have. And now I can bring that back into a monogamous relationship when I meet some fantastic men.
I could kiss you for saying that, except that would break my monogamy rules with my husband.
Are people wired one way or the other, monogamous or, you know, in an open relationship?
Well, human behavior is very complex.
Yes, it
and you know, there's the question of nature, there's the question of nurture. You know, we're learning a lot about neurobiology, we're looking at functional MRIs, but the truth is that we don't have 100% certain answer for that. But what I will tell you is that there are some hormones that are involved in bonding.
Right.
Oxytocin, which often is referred to as the cuddle hormone.
Yes, the love hormone.
Right, exactly.
Draws people to us.
And the other one is vasopressin. That's also included in bonding. And some scientists believe that people who have higher levels of those hormones or higher levels of receptors for those hormones, or both, will tend to be more inclined towards pair bonding with one monogamous partner than with multiples. I think of it like a bell curve because, you know, statistics, right? Most of us are kind of in that middle area where probably a partner is enough, and maybe that's enough we can manage. Like, maybe that's all we can manage. But there are people on the tails, right? That's how I think of it. So there might be, you know, someone towards this end of the tail who needs multiple love contacts in order to feel truly fulfilled. There might be someone on this end of the tail who identifies as, you know, asexual or aromantic and doesn't, you know, feel the need to have those kinds of relationships in order to be fulfilled. That doesn't mean they don't want to connect. It just means they don't have a drive to connect in that way. So it's really, I think about it. It's very individual. You know, I think about it in terms of kind of that curve, and the only way that you can really identify where you are on that curve is actually to experiment with the different spots on the curve.
We actually have to go to commercial break, and I'm excited because when we go live from the streets, people are going to get uncorked about this whole topic, and it's going to be saucy and wonderful. And then after the break, Erin's going to come back, Dr. Findley, and she's going to really explain to us about if this whole lifestyle is about sexual gratification or not. We'll see you after the break.
All right.
My name is Maxine Warsh, and I'd like to introduce you to the washcloth. Simple to use, water only. With a warm cloth, you're going to remove all of your makeup. My face is clean and smooth and exfoliated. Water only. The washcloth. Some people call it a miracle. I call it practical.
For couples who are not monogamous and they're in an open relationship with swinging, why do you think they choose that lifestyle over monogamy?
Maybe they've been together for a while and they don't want to leave each other, but they want to try other things.
It's a great question. Well, what do you think? I'm curious.
Well, I've been married 53 years.
Wow.
And I haven't touched another, so I don't know why they do it, but it's...
Just find something new to get the exciting feeling, different feeling because they've been with one for so long.
It's just fear, but there is a lot of fooling around. Not me, but there is. I don't know why. You have a commitment, you make a commitment, you go all the way with it.
Well, there's a couple reasons. One, we live a lot longer now, and it used to be if you were married, you'd be married for like 20 years at the most, 25 years. Now you're living to be like 80, 90, 100. You could be married for 50 or 70 years, and honestly, it does get boring.
I think they're not non-committal in some way, so they're not willing to commit to a relationship. So It's just an easier form of commitment without actually being committed.
I think maybe they want like to take a chance to know like different people because if you don't open it, you don't get like to know about the people.
I always say, like, if you love lobster and you have lobster every night and it's in drawn butter and it's delicious and you love it, but every once in a while you might want some meatloaf. Like, you want something different.
All right,
All right.
Erin, question,
Yes.
Dr. Findley.
Either way is fine.
Either way is fine. So people seem to think that people who are into polyamory and all that jazz and swinging, it's like, oh, they're a bunch of horny beasts. It's all for the sexual gratification.
Well, I'm
Dispel
not gonna
this.
lie. I'm not gonna lie. The sex is part of it, right?
Exactly, sex is part of it.
Especially for the people who are, identifying on the higher end of the sexual bell curve, right? But truly, it's about more than that. It's about communication. It's about intimacy, physical and emotional. It's about finding ways for you to be your whole self and to feel fulfilled in your healthy desires and in your relationships. When a person is more fulfilled by multiple people, to be in a relationship with one person can leave a hole. Now, here's kind of a caveat though, because sometimes when people are in difficult relationships, they'll tend to say like, okay, you, Cindy, get to have this part of me, but this lover over here only gets that part of me.
Interesting.
Right? And that's less healthy because what you're doing is segmenting yourself and you're only bringing part of yourself to the party at any given time. So when you're with each of your partners, can you be your whole self? Can you share your most intimate, vulnerable feelings? In a swinging situation, those feelings might be in the primary partnership, but then you're using the sexual experimentation going outside of the relationship to bring back intimacy into the primary relationship.
Right.
It all comes down to how whole are you and what do you need to feel whole in your emotional and romantic relationships.
Yeah, that's a great question. What do you need to feel whole? And again, people in monogamy
Experimentation.
don't talk about this stuff.
Right, it's true. And part of it is because it's risky.
Yeah, it is.
Right? Like, what if...
But then people cheat.
Right.
And then it's even more heartbreak because they don't communicate.
Right.
Right.
Like, if I were in a relationship with you...
Right.
'cause
I'm suddenly
you're
swinging your way.
Yeah, you're my sexy, darling lover. We would have such a good time. But if that were, how we were configured...
Right.
And I wasn't able or comfortable to tell you about the parts of me that I wanted to share with you.
Yeah, that's a problem.
If I couldn't be intimate with you completely, then we don't have a complete relationship. There's that candy coating somewhere. Maybe it's not covering our whole selves,
Right.
but it's covering pieces, right? But if I know I can show you and be with you to my fullest extent, and I'm doing that with my other partners too, then I'm fully fulfilled. That's where the negotiation about, what do you need? What does the other person need? What are we agreeing to? It's so vital.
It is.
Yeah.
In all relationships.
Absolutely. Yeah, monogamous relationships tend to forget about that conversation.
Hello.
Or it gets overlooked as obvious.
Right.
Right? And part of what I do with couples is I help them bring the implicit assumptions and the obvious topics that don't need to be talked about into the room as a conversation.
Well, I'm glad you're talking about that, Erin, because you came to me as a client to work
Yes.
on your speech, and when I was working with you, I was like, wow, this woman is like the best marriage counselor, psychologist out there,
Thank you.
because what you do is do that. You go so much deeper than the surface stuff that most psychologists go through. So I love it.
Yeah. What I do is I focus on the attachment bond between the members of the couple in front of me, or group if it's a poly group.
Right.
And the goal there is I'm not going to give you nice words to tell your partner.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give you a script. I'm not going to say only talk to your partner.
Or just make sure you take the garbage out and you'll make her happy.
Right?
Oh,
my God, please. So
let's go deeper.
Right. So every layer, every communication between connected people, and this is true in friendships too, by the way, has a concrete layer, which
Right.
is like the obvious topic, right? Who's taking out the trash? But there's also an attachment layer, and that attachment layer is often unspoken, and people don't even realize it's there.
Right.
Right? But when couples are in conflict, when people are in conflict, what's happening is this attachment layer on an emotional level is disturbed.
Right.
Right? There's some disturbance in the force.
Right.
Right? And so what I do is I help couples not only talk about the topic at hand, but actually primarily focus on what kind of message am I sending to my partner or receiving from my partner about how secure we are with each other.
Wow.
And when couples can melt off their candy coating and sink into the chocolate of their core emotions,
Yeah.
you know, then they can start to really show their true selves. And when we show our true selves, other people are drawn to us.
Yeah, they
that's
really
just
are.
how it works.
And
You know?
everything.
In everything.
So Erin, Dr. Findley, tell us, where can people find you? Because you do practice.
Yes,
And you're brilliant, so tell us.
I have a private practice in Lafayette, California, San Francisco East Bay. My website is erinfindley.com, and my phone number is 925-954-8084.
Love it.
Yeah, I do couples workshops. I also do individual and couples therapy.
And poly.
And poly. Well, relationship therapy. My practice
Yeah.
is called the Diablo Valley Relationship Center.
Love it.
because it's all about relationships.
And you're so brilliant at this. Thank you for being on the show. This has been very eye-opening, as always. Thank you.
So enjoy with consent.
Yes, we're consenting to hug now.
Career Uncorked is brought to you by Janet Wise. I feel stuck in my career. What are some actions I can take to catapult it?
I love talking about catapulting someone's career. Here's why. I smile because it makes me think of being a kid in the circus. Do you remember the human cannonball where the clown would get inside the cannon and the master of ceremonies would light the fuse and he would shoot right over to that last ring? Excitement, joy, anticipation. But what would happen when the master of ceremonies would light that fuse and it wouldn't ignite right away? And he'd do it again and it wouldn't ignite. So I'd like to share with you 4 quick action steps that can light the fuse and reignite your career. Step number 1, reframing. Your career can take a new perspective when you look at it with fresh eyes. I'd like you to challenge yourself and think of your next project as a performance, the way an Olympic athlete would. Sure, they're ready, they're primed for it, but they're showing up and they're looking at every angle, looking for every way that they can either improve or optimize their outcome so they can be a winner. Tip number 2, be curious. Expand your knowledge base. Understand the reason why you're being asked to perform that task or duty, or why you were assigned to that project team. Understanding either the go-to-market strategy, whether it's something that can be provided by your organization, or if it's a class that you need to develop yourself outside your organization. Key here is to remain curious. Tip number 3, spice it up with a conversation. What I'd like to challenge you in this tip to do is to have a conversation with your manager. First of all, be frank and ask what's keeping you from that next step, or what do you need to do to develop yourself into that next level to up-level your career. Tip number 4, think like a consultant. Approach that next task or project with fresh eyes. Is there a way for you to optimize a process, streamline a process, or save the company money? A win for you will be a win for the organization and will definitely keep you re-engaged. All right, now tweet me and let me know what step you're going to use to catapult your career.
Be sure to download Janet's free guide on personal branding at wiseadvantages.com. Next up, we have Getting Uncorked on the red carpet.
So everybody, we've got Robbie Betts here. So tell me, we've got a bunch of women watching my show. We just want to know, how do they learn to love themselves? What do you want to piece of advice?
Okay, so it's called physical love. You have to have appreciation for where you are in your life, right? So there's physical love, there's mental love, and there's the health part plays into that. I'm a personal trainer and yoga instructor, so it's good to kind of ask me that question. But definitely, I would say you have to start with yourself first. Before you can love anyone else or anything else, love yourself. And what that looks like is maybe just breathing easy every day, maybe just finding an easy way to walk around, you know what I mean? But something to release any tension in your body. So the first step is breathing.
I love it, I love it, I love it. Is there anything you want to do a shout out for?
Just a shout out to my music. I'm here for rapping actually. I'm a rapping artist, and I have a video that I just let out. It's called Bounce to the King, and it's under everything YouTube. It's official_ Robbie Betts, and that's ROBBYBETTS.
I love it. So we're all going to bounce and we're going to feature you on the show.
Oh yeah.
Let's get Uncorked to listen to you.
Yeah, I'd love that. That'd be awesome.
Awesome, love it. Best of luck with your singing career.
Thank you very much.
Rapping.
Yeah, you'll see me popping around.
You're already popping because you're on Cindy Uncorked. So now that we've been enlightened about open relationships, swinging, and polyamory, next week we go live with Katie Bray and Zebulon Severson to talk about the dangers of female power and your relationship. But of course, we've got Dr. Nathalie Beauchamp back. We're going to be talking about wireless products and how they're bad for your health and how to reduce the exposure. But we also have Janet Wise coming in to talk all about, well, what happens if you get invited to a planning meeting at work? How do you shine? How do you see yourself as valued, and how are you heard? So it's going to be a great episode. But first, we've got the fabulous Rick Fox with us, so we've got to use him a bit more. And of course, we're going to end with Carmen's Habanera.